very first ever episode to have Jeff.Fulchino, local real estate agent, former Major League Baseball player, on the show to tell us a little bit about himself. Welcome, Jeff. Appreciate you taking some time today. I know it's a big day. What do we got going on?
Well, sir, we had hopefully a closing.
Not just any closing.
Not just any closing, a big commercial building in Stamford.
Awesome.
Not without its problems, but what...
Thank you. Clap for yourself. Clap for the wins. Celebrate the wins.
You have to, but don't celebrate before before the money's in the bank, right? No, we did the walkthrough today. Not without its challenges, but my buyer, my client, is at the closing table as we speak.
Awesome. That's a big day. Nice big price listing for you.
Yes, it was commercial building, a mixed-use commercial building in Stamford, which, as you know, Stamford is a rapidly growing, if it's not the largest city in Connecticut, it's certainly one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to be able to service my client in investment piece for him in his portfolio.
Great. Tell us about your client. Where did you come across this client?
Believe it or not, Zillow.
Wow. Zillow, the enemy of realtors.
It is. It was. It's funny. It's full circle of how real estate works. It was. I had met his parents, and they were looking for a multifamily. They were from a different country. This was 5 to 7 years ago, actually. Thinking about it now, and he happened to be with them, and they had already owned multiple properties, and in just my just striking up conversation and being familiar, working with them, being able to help them purchase another multifamily in Bridgeport at the time, and getting the opportunity to show what kind of agent I am and how I bring value to my clients. He trusted me with his portfolio, and it started off with rents, and then purchases of smaller properties, and then gradually building up to the point where I sold his 16 unit in Bridgeport, and now we just we purchased.
So a repeat customer for you,
Correct.
Jeff. Not your first deal with him.
Not my first deal.
And both with many zeros in them.
Yes.
That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. That says a lot about your willingness to help your clients get things done, starting off with helping him rent the units. A lot of agents may think they're too good to do rentals. You do not, which is great, because what happened, fast forward a few years, you're now purchasing your second.
We're doing seven-figure deals, and we started off with rents.
$1,000 a month.
Right.
Awesome, awesome. So that's a good note for everybody out there. Never think you're too good to do a rental. Follow Jeff's footsteps with that, and the money will come. The money will come.
And it's not the only client that I've had that it's worked out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've had a renter turn into a buyer, turn into a seller.
Right.
So.
Awesome. So Jeff, not only are you selling deals, but you're also lately been recruiting agents.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the saying? If you don't have a friend that's in real estate, you don't have any friends.
Correct. That's right. Everybody's a realtor now,
especially in this market. But look, we welcome everybody.
Yeah.
And this isn't obviously, this is a great occupation. It's real estate is, if it's not the fastest way to grow your wealth, it's certainly
one of them.
Certainly one of them.
Yeah.
Unless you're into crypto.
I've never made $1 on crypto. I just watch it go down and
right.
down
Right.
and down and down.
I have several friends that are in.
Yeah. This is FYI. This is not financial advice. We have to say that now, right? If you're on the air,
absolutely not.
This is not financial advice. That's awesome. Well, what I'm referring to, actually, Jeff had a client that has bought. How many properties did Cindy buy from you?
At least 6, but that doesn't even count the referrals that she's given me through family, friends. So we're
maybe a dozen deals or so.
Double digits.
So Cindy calls Jeff, gets that call, says, "Hey, just got my real estate license. What should I do?" And leaned heavily on Jeff. Jeff made the introduction. I was able to meet with her yesterday as she was leaving me to go interview with another brokerage. Got the call last night that she's coming on board to Better Homes and Gardens. So super thankful for that. Appreciate you steering her our way. And now she'll have a great mentor in you, and you can show her how to close these seven-figure deals.
Yep. I think the first thing I said to her was sad to see you go, but happy and welcoming you to um, the profession. And, you know, I know we found out last night that she was indeed going to come on board, and um, absolutely ecstatic to have her on board. I think she'll be a tremendous agent. She's, as you know, she is got all her I's dotted and her T's crossed.
Oh, sharp woman.
She is on point, and you know, sorry to see her go as a client, but certainly happy for her to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So Jeff, we're gonna get on the real estate talking a little bit, but I wanna rewind a little bit to young Jeff.Fulchino. Growing up as a kid, where did you live? What was life like? Your family before your current family, what was that like for Jeff.Fulchino?
So grew up in New Hampshire. A little town called Hollis, New Hampshire. My parents are still there. I went until high school. I went to a private school, so essentially, you know, in Hollis, lived in Hollis, private school in Manchester, New Hampshire, Trinity High School, and ended up going to the University of Connecticut, and which transitioned me to Connecticut. Um, and at that university, you know, ended up meeting my wife there, and you know, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Tell us about your kids, Jeff.
Three kids, 14, 11, and 8.
Nicely spaced.
Perfectly spaced.
Perfectly
right?
spaced.
Perfectly planned so that next year, as a matter of fact, I'll be doing three different bus routes, 3 different schools.
Oh, so maybe it wasn't so well planned. I tell people if you're gonna have kids, just get it done. Suffer, don't sleep, do it right out. As soon as you're done, the baby's out. Maybe give your wife like
Get it
a
over
week
with.
and get it over with. Just have them back to back to back.
No,
Just horrible advice.
it's brutal up front.
It is brutal up front, but in the end, we have these beautiful children, right? And we live for them now. That's all.
That's true.
That's all we do.
To tie this into real estate, it's one of the reasons why I transitioned into real estate was to have the ability to have um, the scheduling flexibility that real estate provides, to be able to, you know, be home, to be able to take them to school, to, you know, attend their practices and their activities. So it is,
Yeah.
you know.
So listen, we stretched a long time there. We talked about New Hampshire as a young child. We fast forwarded to Monroe with 3 kids many years later. In between, what many people don't know is you played Major League Baseball.
I did.
Tell us about that. What was that journey like from later college years, getting recruited to early on, minors, if that existed? What was that like for you?
So in high school, I always, you know, when you're growing up, you always have, you know, dreams, what you think you're going to be, what you want to be. And for me, it was always to play baseball, and that was what I wanted to do. That is who I wanted to be, and there was no question about that. Is exactly what I was going to do, you know, as an adult or a young man. And so that was legitimately my focus, and nothing else was kind of on the radar. And so to take you from my high school to college, scholarship to play baseball with the University of Connecticut, and continued, you know, kind of where I thought I would end up, and left the University of Connecticut as a junior, as I was drafted in the Major League Draft that year in 2001.
What year was that? 2001.
Yep.
Okay.
So 2001, drafted by the Florida Marlins, now the Miami Marlins, but Florida Marlins at the time, and immediately started my playing career in we reported to Vieira, Florida at the time, and spent a couple weeks down there, and then was shipped out to Utica, New York,
Oh,
for what they it was. I think it's still called that, but short season um, A ball, Class A ball, and that started my progression to eventually getting to play in the majors with Florida, and then fast forward, um, you know, 10 years later, um, 2012 was my last year professionally playing. I did play an additional year with injuries, kicking me, kind of making me prove myself again.
hmm.
Actually in Bridgeport. That was my last year playing.
Bluefish.
Bridgeport Bluefish, no longer.
No
But,
longer. So is that 2002 to, so your overall
so 13,
career,
I'm done.
2002 to 2013. Okay.
That's my career arc span of baseball, which is sad to think about it because you're retiring from
Yeah.
what you thought as a kid that would be your career and your life's work, and then all of a sudden you're 33 and you're like,
Did you have a Tom Brady like moment then when you were trying to figure out when's the right time to hang him up?
no. It was a conversation, because if you think about it, I had spent the last 4 years in Major League Baseball. My last year in Major League Baseball um, wasn't extraordinarily successful. I got hurt. I had to have surgery, and
That's
was
tough.
was yeah. Well, it's a part of athletics. Unfortunately, it's the downside of it. And you go from being hurt, being released, to trying to find a job, and because of the injuries, not being able to find a job,
Right.
and which transitioned to the reason playing for the Bluefish, to kind of show teams, hey, look, I'm healthy,
You can play still.
I can still play.
Hmm.
Um, and nothing wrong with that. I mean, that is part of the business. But at that point in my life, I was 32, 3 kids, and uh, kind of figuring out, look, if this doesn't work out, what's next? Because you physically can't play forever. Although you bring up Tom Brady,
Right.
legitimately,
He could probably
might
play
be able
forever.
to play forever.
He could probably play
right?
forever looking at him.
Right.
Totally.
So, if me, not so much. So, at 32, 33, 3 kids, wife, home in Monroe, and it was, my wife and I, sitting down and discussing what is next, because even if I can play professional baseball, how much actually longer am I physically going to be able to do it?
And what's that life like for a Major League Baseball player's wife? What's that like?
Extraordinarily tough in that, and we'll talk about this later, but uh, the you're constantly moving.
Right.
Unless you're a superstar, and even if you are, they get traded,
Right.
you get released, you move from team to team.
Mhm.
It is difficult, especially when it's with children, right? You're, um, I'll give you an example. So I was with Houston Astros at the time. I want to say this is 2011 or 12. I had pitched for the Astros most of the year, had gotten hurt, was in um, what they call rehabbing. I was with a minor league team at the time, and um, as soon as so I'm with Houston, right? Most of the year we have a house in Houston, right? We have the house in Monroe.
Any kids at this time?
Yep, 2 kids at the time.
Okay.
And then we are um, uh, hoping to get back with the major league team after the showing that I'm healthy, right? So at the time, Houston wasn't doing well, and they started trading players. So I get the phone call. I'm on my way back to Houston. They say, Jeff, we put you on waivers. San Diego claimed you. You need to be in San Diego tomorrow, right? So
Just like that.
just like that, and legitimately, the next day I'm on a plane to San Diego to meet my new team, and to play
What's that feel like?
for the Padres. Well, it's
Resentment,
great.
or is it like,
No, well,
like,
look,
we didn't want to, I didn't want to be here anyway, type of thing?
it's what you make of it, right? It's another opportunity,
Hmm.
right? Or the conversely, you could look at it. Well, the team gave up on me. They don't want me anymore.
True.
But you can't look at it that way.
Doesn't do you any good.
It will absolutely not do you any good.
Right.
So I looked at it as a new opportunity. I had been to San Diego previously, so if you haven't been to San Diego, there are worse places to be.
Yeah. Good weather.
It's beautiful,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't know that, but one day.
San Diego is beautiful. But to go back to real estate, I was on the move again, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in San Diego. Wife has to pack up the house in Houston. Okay, put everything that we owned on a truck,
And go.
including our cars, and send it back to Connecticut.
Wow.
And then she flew with the kids to San Diego. And then, we had an apartment in San Diego where we, spent the last.
So you send her house hunting while you're like reporting for training? Is that how that works?
Legitimately, yes.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was on like a 10-day road trip at the time. Honey, go find
me a place to live.
And I mean, look, there's support staff that helps you. Hey, here's realtors, here's
Yeah.
this, here's that.
Right.
Go, but it was on her. No car, which was one of the nice parts about San Diego is it's a living, walkable
Right.
downtown. You don't have to do anything.
Nice walk score.
Yeah.
Good walk
Very
score.
nice walk score.
Little MLS term there for you.
There you
Walk
go.
score.
Right. But thank goodness it ended up being, she could go and do anything she needed to on foot, by
That's good.
stroller. So it worked out that way. But plenty of moves, plenty of moving around.
Mhm.
And to kind of go back to where we were and transitioning, from baseball to real estate, it just, with all the moves that we made, I had a ton of experience
Oh
with
yeah.
moving from house to house, location to location. So it was for me, it was a natural fit. And again, it gave me the ability to be flexible with my kids because now, we went from, me working in baseball and my wife with me to now my wife is working and, I'm doing a lot of the primary care stuff with
Mhm.
the kids, and at the same time, um, looking for something that I could jump into. And real estate ended up being
It's awesome.
exactly that.
It worked out.
Exactly.
Tell us a good Major League Baseball story. Did you like ever hit A-Rod in the shin? Did you ever bet on a game with Pete Rose? Like, give me something that's gonna get people saying, "Dude, I want to be Jeff. I wish I did that."
If you were to sum up my career in Major League Baseball, the thing that I'm most well known for, and you'll find this video on YouTube, by the way, so you could search it
I
up.
know where you're going because I creeped on you. I know where you're going.
You
with
can
that.
look it up.
I know where you're going
It's
with it.
I was you've heard of the top 10, right? Plays. Okay, I was the not so top 10 plays.
Oh,
I
that's awesome.
didn't win, but I was in the top 10 not so top 10
For
plays.
Sports Center.
For Sports Center, yes.
What year was that? Do you remember?
This would have been, I believe, 2010 in Chicago, Wrigley Field, pitching against the Cubs. I'm facing Kosku Fukudome.
Ah,
You know,
Bucadome.
there you go.
It says it all right there.
Make sure you say it correctly. And so I'm pitching to him, and he throw him a fastball. He hits an absolute laser beam right back at me. It was a ground ball, actually. It wasn't a line drive, but it was a ground ball, absolute laser beam. I have time enough to turn my glove just to not try to knock the ball, corral the ball in front of me. So I'm able to do that and play the ball off my chest. So it bounces up, and it's so hard, it skips off me, hits me in the chest, and apparently it broke the button on my jersey.
Oh.
So, and while I'm trying to corral the baseball, it slips in where the button had now broken
We got to cut to this
in
video. We're definitely going to cut to this video.
in between my jersey, in my jersey. So now the ball is in my jersey, and um, uh, if you know baseball rules, the ball is now dead, and the runner now advances.
Oh, the runner's safe.
The runner's so it's not
How is that worded in the major league? If
I have
it
no
goes up
idea.
a pitcher's
I have no
shirt and you
idea.
can't find it?
No idea.
All right, we'll check that
It
out.
is more frustrating than anything because now you have a guy on base, and
Wow.
essentially I would have been able to field the ball had it not been
Correct.
I was gone on my shirt.
Got it.
So
So what about as a pitcher? I mean, who'd you strike out? Anybody worth mentioning?
would you say top players I'd strike out?
Sure.
Ryan Howard
Okay.
would come to mind.
He's a big dog.
Big slugger from the.
He's a big
Phillies.
slugger.
I will say Derek Jeter. He hit a home run off me.
Awesome.
There you go.
Listen, that's it. That's it. We
For?
can end now. That's a good one. Derek Jeter hit a homer off you. That's
tell you,
cool.
I've given up some home runs to some very, very good hitters.
Let's just leave it at Derek Jeter. Let's leave it at Derek Jeter. That's a great one. That's awesome. Well, listen, it's not an easy thing to get to Major League, so that's a great accomplishment. I thought I was going to the NBA when I was growing up, and that was my dream, which I realized quickly was just a dream. And as you transition and you get older, you have responsibilities. You got to figure out, what am I going to do for the rest of my career, right? So finding real estate for you seemed like a really nice, natural transition. You're clearly excelling. You're a big producer in our market. Also want to say, how appreciative I am that you took the jump to come on over with me at the very infant stages of growing this brokerage. So, I mean, you were heavily, as you were recruited in college and scouted in Major League Baseball, you were also heavily recruited in the real estate game. And I'm very blessed that you have taken a chance, because back then we had no idea where we were going to end up. And right,
we certainly didn't think we'd be in a podcast room.
Who would have thought we'd be in this wonderful 8x12 carpeted room, right, with wearing what we're wearing, sitting in green chairs on this podcast. And I appreciate you taking that big leap, and hopefully we haven't let you down. And you've been a big part of this growth process for us. And I think the best is still kind of yet to come. So,
well, I agree with you, and I very much appreciate the compliment. I think a lot like professional sports, real estate, you have to adapt, right? And I've always approached I've tried to approach anything and everything that I do with surrounding yourself with people that are successful and that you can learn and you can grow with, right? And
I echo that, by the way.
And I think, just a backstory, we connected 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
About 3.
Yeah. Before that, I had been at other brokerages, to transition from baseball to real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been with several different brokerages and had come over to met you. I had always, because we were in the same market.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily competing, but in the same market.
Right.
And, real estate's a small world, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
who the players are, you know who does business. And,
Right.
If you're doing business, you'll know who's.
You should know.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
There you go.
Right.
So, I looked at it as a growth and an opportunity, and I saw, look, you're going places, and I looked at it as I want to be a part of that. So, happy to be here. I think had you said 3 years ago when I met you and we started this relationship and we'd be at a podcast, we might say you're crazy.
You're crazy. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. And you remember we met at Starbucks?
Starbucks in Shelton.
Just chilling right in the middle there.
Right.
And people were looking at us and they didn't know what we were doing, but we got it done. And that's when you can surround yourself with people who are successful. I agree. Then the sky's the limit. You do not want to be the smartest guy in the room. You do not. And there's so many people that will preach that. And, if you're in a brokerage and you're the agent of the month every month, that's not good, right?
No, I
so
agree
you
with
want
you.
other people
You
to
want
be.
to be pushed. You
Mhm.
want to be pushed to be uncomfortable. Because
Mhm.
I think your growing, getting better, and whatever you do is not in a comfort zone, right?
Expecting better.
Right? Expect better. You have
Like,
to expect better
got to
from
expect
yourself
better. Yep.
and from others, right? And putting yourself into positions where you may not be comfortable, but you know it ends up for the better.
Yeah. Yeah. And, back then, too, I'll just say we had no idea. I even think I told you, like, hey, I know there's going to be another move coming. Like, we're going to make a move now together, which I think from the outside world, people saw us working together as a great thing. Those two guys,
Yeah.
people know them. They're in the community. You're very involved. I want to switch over to that topic next. In the community, you're a member of the Monroe Board of Education, among many things that you do in town. And I just, it goes back to you taking that leap because I knew there was going to be another move, and it's frustrating. It's very hard as an agent to move, right? It's very hard to move companies. I've done it one, two, three, probably four times in my career, and it's not fun. You have relationships. You have to let people down. In some cases, you're letting down, maybe a broker that has done a lot for you, but there's better opportunity for you. Or in other cases, you're leaving a situation that's a disaster, right? So, whatever it is, the growth has to be in your best interest. And if those people who helped you get there are not supportive in your move, then they're not your people. So,
100% agree with you.
yeah,
A lot of people don't know that realtors aren't employees.
right.
They're 1099 uh, contractors, and essentially, as a realtor, you own your own business.
Hmm.
So
You don't
it's
know when your next check's coming.
exactly, and that's why I always, you really, at least for me, want to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, driven, focused, and successful.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, the whole greed piece, not being a greedy individual. I meet with a lot of agents, and the first thing they'll ask me, "What's my split? What's my split?"
Hmm.
And I'm a Shark Tank guy. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank, but there's really no episode that I've never seen. I fall asleep to it every night. My wife and daughter watch it with me. Like, we are so into Shark Tank, it's not even funny. And Mark Cuban's got a great line. He says it all the time. Do you want 100% of the grape or you want 50% of the watermelon? So we do not have agents on 50-50 splits here. They're much higher. But, it's that mentality, that closed in mentality that I just going to go where there's what are the least amount of fees, what's the highest split I could get. And when you're that person, be careful because you'll never reach your full potential. So, and that's one of the cool things here at Better Homes and Gardens, not only having the support on a corporate and brand level, but on the local level, our support staff here, is amazing to help people kind of grow there. So, back to what I was saying about your involvement, Jeff. Let's talk about what do you do in town. Obviously, you're a staple in Monroe. Everybody knows you. If you go to the grocery store, I believe you're on every shopping cart in town.
You will shop with me at Big Y.
You will shop with Jeff at Big Y. What else do you do in the community that you want to tell everybody about?
So, I'll start with what you had mentioned earlier. I am a Board of Education member, an elected Board of Ed member. I've done that. This will be, I was just elected to a second term, so this will be,
That's a good thing.
finishing out my fourth year of that, fifth year of that. So I'll have another few years remaining on this term. Um, but I also I've coached baseball primarily, but other sports. I've volunteered for basketball, with my kids' activities, various charitable events in and around town. Um, but I've run um, the local little league here. I
It's a big commitment.
served on that board as well.
That's not like a little commitment.
That is not a little commitment. I
Right.
started from the ground up, built a travel baseball program that's now gone on in existence after I've left. So proud of that. That it's continued, after I've left and handed the reins off to, another dad who has taken that and run with it.
It's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, for sure. We didn't have anything, saw a need to try and help the kids that were looking for more baseball. Right, I'm all for it. Any people wanting to do more, especially in something that I cared so deeply about for so many years playing. and obviously my son was playing too, but the starting that, um, and then and being able to pass it off when my son was done playing at that level, and um, so proud of that. Proud of the fact that prior to my service on the Board of Education, I was on Conservation Commission, and then transitioned to Board of Ed after. So, you know, not so much free time, but I like to stay busy, and
Yeah.
it's a good way for me to stay involved with the town, um, with my kids' educations, and you know, uh, be involved in our schools.
This time. Time is something you can never get back, so it's good to be involved as much as you can, obviously, without neglecting your family. I had a new agent that I met with the other day who said to me, "Oh, you must play a lot of golf. You must have a lot of time to do whatever you want." And I said, "I work 90 hours a week, so I don't have to work 40."
Yeah.
And I think it took a second for that to kind of register there, right? So it's more than just, nobody gets anywhere in life just by um, getting lucky, right? I do believe in getting lucky. I do believe the harder you work, the luckier you're going to get. But somewhere when you see a successful person is somebody, unless they've inherited something, right, from their mommy and daddy, you're going to see somebody who probably put in a lot of sweat, blood, and tears and a lot of hours. So you clearly have done that and are continuing to do that. And I think that's why your business is growing. I think that's why your clients keep coming back. And, you know,
Yeah.
um,
I'm a big believer in that you create your own luck, and
Totally.
like you said, it is about hard. It is about the work you put in.
Yeah.
It's about what you get out.
Yeah, totally. The Mamba mentality. You have the Mamba mentality, Jeff?
The killer instinct.
That is the killer instinct, right? Be better today than you were yesterday,
Yep.
and be better
And it
tomorrow
doesn't
than the
matter
day
what
before.
what we're talking about. It could be
Hmm.
it could be
Anything.
athletics. It could be schoolwork.
School. Yeah.
It could be your job. Whatever you're doing.
Jeff, what do you think are the best skills that you bring to your clients? What are the best skills and assets that you provide for your clientele?
So I think um, the biggest skill that I bring to the table is being able to effectively communicate with my clients, right? Um, you see it a lot in our business where you have extremely successful people, whether it be on the attorney side, lender side, realtor side, but they don't effectively communicate with each other.
Hmm.
And
A lot of that.
when you're talking about a financial transaction for a buyer seller, it's often um, you know the largest financial decision that they're going to make in,
Hmm.
if not their lifetime, but
Probably.
you know probably,
Hmm.
right. So uh, to not communicate, or at least effectively can be able to communicate, I think is a real disservice. And so I really strive at being good at communicating with all parties, because, as you know, a real estate transaction is not just dealt with on a realtor to client level.
Hmm.
It's realtor, client, listing or selling realtor on the other
Hmm.
side, buyer seller on the other side, two different attorneys, and a mortgage lender.
Yeah.
So, you have a lot of parties involved in, a significant financial decision for two parties,
Hmm.
and being able to effectively communicate um, between all parties and is, to me, one of the most important aspects of real estate. And not the, and it's not, if you go on a little further, it's not just those parties, because oftentimes you're involved in a home inspector,
Hmm.
insurance. So there's a lot of things going on, and if that is not being communicated on a timely and effective fashion,
Hmm.
it really can get sideways
Yeah.
and not. Um,
Not go well.
mhm.
People think in ethics and real estate is agent to agent, but it's not just agent to agent, like you wanting to kill an agent because they're not getting back to you. That's a problem and bad too. But ethics also involves your relationship with attorneys and how the attorneys
Yep.
um, communicate with you and if they get back to you. And the other client's attorney. So if everybody is held accountable, then there's typically
Hmm.
a smooth transaction. And to backpedal a little, when the communication is good, the problems just seem to not be
Correct.
there. So
Nobody likes surprises, right?
right,
And so if you're able to communicate what's going on to all parties and do it effectively, you can overcome
totally,
things that that may be that aren't a surprise. Where if you're you're surprised in them,
yeah,
then things get sideways awfully fast.
awfully fast, yeah,
Because it's such an important decision. Um, it does everybody a disservice to not be able to effectively communicate.
totally. When you wake up Monday mornings, Jeff, what is your mindset? What gets you kind of ready to rock and roll? Uh,
The first thing that goes through my mind on a Monday morning is what's going to hurt today as I get out of bed.
as you get out of
That is
bed,
unfortunately, as you get older, I think that's more and more the case. But
I feel the same way. I stubbed a finger last night coaching my son's basketball, and I can't move it right now. But hopefully it'll be okay by
yeah,
next week. But no, what do you do in the morning? Like Monday, some people get up and they're like, I got to go to work. I don't, and they're miserable. They're not happy, right? The old saying there too. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like,
it's true.
when you wake up Mondays, what's your mindset?
My mindset is to get ready for the day, and uh, ideally to do that with a smile on my face, right?
Totally.
But usually it involves yelling at kids to
Of
get
course.
to
Of course.
get ready, get out of
Brush your
bed,
teeth.
brush your teeth.
Yeah.
We need to get to school.
Hmm.
But
So when they're on the bus and they're gone,
with a deep breath
deep breath.
and
Now you got to shift gears.
shift gears to real estate.
Okay.
And usually, that starts with, well, in the morning, before all of that, I'm looking at what my day entails that day. And then after they're out the door,
Game on.
it's game on focus,
Yeah.
um,
Good.
real estate.
Awesome. Who's somebody rather that you would consider to be a mentor, somebody who has influenced your life, whether it's professionally or personally, who's someone that you feel has helped keep you on a steady, straight and narrow in your life?
Well, I'd have to say my father. Only thing he ever knew was his own business and doing his own thing. Started off in landscaping, owned his own business, landscaping. Transitioned to owning gas stations, art galleries, and then finally, um, he always had a passion for winemaking and transitioned into he has his own vineyard and
Tell us about the
wine.
vineyard.
Um, so my father's vineyard, my family's vineyard, it's in the town I grew up in New Hampshire, Hollis. Um, trying to think when he actually put um, plants in the ground, but he's been doing it. He's been making wine all his life, but the actual vineyard, I'm trying to think of when he started it, but it was,
Many moons ago.
yeah. Um, eh, the point I was trying to make it was my father's entrepreneurship really, affected outside of baseball what I wanted to do. I knew I wasn't going to be a 9 to 5. I didn't want that,
Hmm.
and that was, um, you know, a lot that really had to do with my dad, and so I knew I wasn't going to be a 9 to 5er. I wasn't going to be. I wanted to own my own business, and that was really important for me. And I thank my dad for
Yeah.
putting that.
And give yourself credit for that, because there are some kids that might say, I see my dad working all these hours. I want the opposite. I want the 9 to 5. I just want to go to work, come home, get
Yep.
my paycheck. But you had more in you at a
No, you
young
grow.
age.
Well, what's great about it is you grow up in the business.
Right.
You come to work with dad.
Hmm.
You're always learning about something in the business, whether it's
Yeah.
running a cash register, right?
Totally.
Whether it's making sure people punch their time clocks in.
Totally.
Or.
How many employees? Is it a big operation, small operation?
The vineyard is, I'd say he's probably got anywhere from 5 to 10 employees
Wow.
at any one time. Depends on events. He runs a lot of events there. So
Okay.
weddings, comedy shows. Actually, he gets.
Oh, wow. On the vineyard.
Yep.
And is he
us out.
shipping the product, or is it
He
just
will
kind of
ship it.
okay?
Um, uh,
I mean, people here might want to. I'm
but
trying to
most
do a
of
little plug here for him. Maybe somebody wants to get some
Fulchino Vineyard,
Fulchino Vineyard.
187 Pine Hill Road in
Oh,
Hollis, New
any
Hampshire.
website or anything we
There
can?
is FulchinoVineyard.com.
All right, good.
Um, I'll have Darius put a link in
Put a little pop up right now.
the video.
Love it.
um, but most of what he does is on the shipping on premise sales. So
Got it. Oh, I got it.
be tastings, selling bottles,
Awesome.
putting it out. And
Seasonal?
events.
Is it pretty seasonal? Would you say,
You
or
know, it's not seasonal in that
good?
it's open year round, but it's they do regulate the hours in the winter time because you can't sit outside as you would. Although they do have the igloos and
Oh,
outside seating for um, that started off as
that's cool.
COVID
As a
related,
COVID stuff.
right? But
Has he had any catastrophes with the grapes or anything? I mean, I have family that's in the kiwi business, and they're actually one of the largest exporters of kiwi in the world.
no kidding.
And they've actually had years where they've lost their crop, right? So
Yeah. I not tragedies like that, but
that's good.
I do remember one winter where um, I should say it was spring, and he had to. We were up visiting, and we had to go get fans. It was spring, so the grapes were the vines were budding. And if you have a freeze at that point, you're going to lose your buds. You lose your
Right.
buds, you're
Yeah.
going to lose your
Exactly.
the product, the grapes,
Mhm.
or severely stunt them, so that your product is not as good as it normally.
Right.
So I can remember, my dad being nervous. We had to get fans, and we lit bonfires, and the fans would blow the heat from
Oh, to defrost them or
not to defrost them, but to keep the frost from
ah,
the buds.
gotcha.
So
Well, that's cool. Like a 24-hour
so
bonfire.
we're up all night,
That's cool.
setting it up. But no, it's been extraordinarily successful, and it's been a growth.
And it's great wine, by the way.
Yeah.
You gave me a bottle. You were nice enough to bring me a bottle for our grand opening here.
Yep.
It's good, definitely good stuff. Where would you rate it among all the wines you've ever had? It's number one, right?
Number one in my heart.
Number one in your heart. That's good. So that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Who else involved? Anybody else in the family involved in the business?
For the most part, it's my mom and dad run in.
Awesome. Jeff, what are you happiest doing when you're not working? So what if you had a day off where you'd have no clients calling you, nobody bothering you, I'm not calling you asking you what you're doing, when's our next podcast? What are you doing?
What am I doing is usually revolving around what my kids are doing. Whether it's their activities, sports, whatever they're into at the time. That's primarily my focus. And again, it's what real estate gives me the ability to do, right? Which is what I love to do, and it's spend time with my family.
What's something that you hope to accomplish, between now and when you die? What's something you really want to make sure, hey, I want to do this, no matter what gets in my way, life, I want to make sure I do this. You want to climb Mount Washington? Do you want to,
That's a great question.
what's
I think
something?
Fair enough. I'll give you my number one item on my bucket list that I
Okay.
think is so far. Look, the way I look at things, if you don't have goals, you're not learning, you're not growing, right? If you're not trying to push yourself. So I've always been a big believer in setting goals, even if they're, if you think they're unattainable, right? So number one bucket list item that would be outrageously difficult to do. Hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Ooh, the whole thing?
End to end, what they call a through hike.
Oh, I've
2,000,
witnessed.
2,000, I believe it's 2,100 and something miles.
Wow.
From Georgia to Maine.
Yes.
That would be a bucket list item. That
Like just with a knapsack and some frozen macaroni and cheese.
some tuna fish, and let's go.
God bless you. We have been on vacations. My family loves to go into the middle of nowhere.
Camping, hiking, yeah.
Maine. We went into a place last summer where we literally pooped in a box. And I might actually send that photo over to the editing department here. And actually, ironically, my aunt, one morning I woke up to go to the bathroom, and there was a Better Homes and Gardens magazine sitting on the box in the middle of the woods,
There you go.
which did not flush.
No running water.
No, there's no running water, and so I've actually witnessed um, men and women doing that hike, and they look like they haven't shaved in about a week, and they have everything literally in one knapsack
Yep.
or backpack, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Their food, their shelter, and they do it. They do it.
Yeah. You can go on YouTube. You can go on YouTube for anything.
Yeah.
But, I follow some of the people as they traverse, and as they go throughout their hiking. It's very interesting. And you're right. Backpack, legitimately, is all they have.
How long does it take to do that? What do they say?
Most people between 4 to 6 months.
Months?
Months.
Oof.
Think about it. It's 2,000 plus miles.
Oh man, I thought it would be like 3 days or something. I mean, that's like I was going to come on with you. I was going to make it my
Well, that's
bucket
why
list.
I said it's a bucket list item that
Yeah.
you couldn't even. That would be so.
I'd have a heart attack.
It would be. It's out there, but like I said,
Cool. What else?
adapt or die, right?
Adapt or do or die. That's right.
So,
What else? What's another bucket? You can give us one more.
bucket list item. I've been to every state except one.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And I want to cross that off. It's Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Every state but one. And I would so a lot less challenging than hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Yes. But that's cool. Maybe you
visiting
can do a
Alaska.
cruise or
Yeah.
something. Take the
I've
family.
heard a cruise is great. I've had family members do that.
Mhm.
But I would like to spend some time in Alaska.
Cool. Tell us about your biggest support now, your wife. What role has she played in your? Obviously, we heard a little bit before about supporting you when you were in your baseball career, but
Yep.
she has a career of her own.
She does.
So, what role has she played in supporting you to be the best person and agent, dad, and husband you can be?
Let me phrase it this way. So if you look at it like being able to play Major League Baseball is the pinnacle of one's career, right? I mean, there's varying degrees of that, right?
Mhm.
You can be an all-star in that. But if you look at the totality of who's played Major League Baseball, there's in the entire history of Major League Baseball, there's 10,000 people that have done it,
Okay.
right?
Interesting.
So, that's a select group of people. And that, to me, it's very hard to let that go,
Oh, yeah.
right? While you're
Mhm.
in it.
Totally.
And so, my wife had to be the one that, I hate to break the bad news to you, big fella, but you
Time
might
to
not be able to do this
time
for
to
the rest
shift
of your
gears,
life.
right?
Right. You might have to.
You want to be able to toss the
Yeah,
baseball to your
but
kids,
to be able
right?
to have that honest conversation
Mm-hmm.
and, to be like, look, this is great, but, what's next?
Right.
And that kick in the pants to
Yeah.
be like, okay, maybe it is time to transition to something else. And then what's that going to be? What's that going to look like? And so a lot of that was her.
Good.
And the reason for getting into real estate.
It's awesome.
So
Yeah. So you
it
definitely
is a team and it's a partnership.
It
Right?
is. When you
So-
get married, it's
Yep.
whatever works for everybody,
Sure.
not just you.
Sure. And look, as you know, getting into real estate is not easy. Starting in real estate is not easy.
Not at all.
And it takes work and time, and you might not see the results until months later.
Or years.
Right. And to have a partner that is supportive along the way, while you may not have the results that you want, but understanding that hey, we're working on this, we're getting there, and then eventually it pays off, right?
Yeah.
But to have someone there that's understanding and trusting.
Makes sense. Yeah, awesome. If someone's watching the podcast right now, wants to get a hold of Jeff.Fulchino, what are the best channels to grab you?
You can get me on YouTube. I have videos there.
To find you on YouTube.
Find me on YouTube.
You have a website?
Yes, website. Jeffrey.Fulchino.com.
Okay.
You can get me on Instagram, J_Fulchino, and on, of course, Facebook.
Of course.
Grandfather of social media.
Of course. Of course. I feel old because coming up, I wasn't, at the beginning of Facebook was when I kind of started in real estate, and I actually leveraged Facebook, I think, to be my version of a CRM. You know, at a couple brokerages I was at, I didn't have the best CRM, but what I didn't realize, and I realize now, is Facebook was my CRM. I'd pay anything if Facebook started charging a monthly subscription. I would pay anything because that's how beneficial it is, I think, to growing one's business. And you got to be on the socials these days to be relevant.
It is the best way to be in front of people for essentially for free.
Hmm.
It doesn't cost you anything so long as you put yourself out there.
Totally.
You know.
Couldn't agree more. And that's the biggest challenge for people who are like, I don't do the computer thing. I said, well, I don't do the podcast thing either, but
Yep. Look. It goes
we're doing
back
it.
to exactly right.
Yep.
Sometimes in order
Expect
to
better
grow,
of yourself.
Yep. Expect better. Challenge yourself.
Totally.
Right.
Awesome.
Go outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Jeff, appreciate you jumping on the show today. Our very first ever Expect Better podcast, hosted by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate. It's been a pleasure. Before we head out, give me one piece of advice you give to anybody looking to get into the real estate game.
Piece of advice getting into the real estate game. Don't be afraid. You know, go back to what we talked about. Challenge yourself. If it may be difficult, but it's it is worth it.
Totally.
So
Awesome. Well, follow us on the socials, like, subscribe, follow us, the Expect Better podcast hosted by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.